Good evening, everyone. How you guys doing? I hope you had a good Saturday. People always talk about treating your weapon like it's loaded. Now, on a pistol platform, that's different. On a rifle platform, that's different. I usually don't load my rifle unless I'm getting ready to engage. With a pistol, she better be in battery, ready to go, because I may only have one arm to actually use this tool. One in the pipe or one not in the pipe. I have always kept one in the pipe. About 6 months ago, I ran into an ex-Marine. I have a lot of respect for the military. And he was telling me there's no reason to have one in the pipe because if you're that close that you have to deal with a person one-on-one, hand-on-hand combat, you need to not worry about them getting hold of your sidearm and actually using it against you. You need to move from a single level retention, or Kydex, what have you, and move to a dual level, be it SERPA or something else. I run something a little different. That lasted about a month. I had an instance pop up where I was helping somebody, and they said somebody's coming up the driveway, and there was thefts in the neighborhood. There was actually still hot embers in the house that they were moving out of, and so I knew there were people around. Situational awareness was aroused, so I racked around, and the first thing that happens is I'm like, okay, this is not like DEFCON 4 here. So I went ahead and I'm like, well, I should drop the hammer because I train that way. I train with one in the chamber, hammer down because it's basically an EA witness or a CZ clone. And that I'm used to the long pull on the first shot because that's how I train. And so here I am with a live firearm. It's got one in the chamber, hammer's back. It's in 1911 position. And I'm like, cock and lock. Or do I drop the hammer back down and go to what I'm familiar with? So anyway, I decide that I'm going to drop the hammer down and go into a more familiar situation that I train with. Stress is still up. Accidental discharge. Oops. Only happened once. So that was interesting. Of course, I'm like, that's a really cool hole in the ground, and I made sure it was pointing in the safe direction. I always do that. I never fillet or go across and do all that stuff. But there was a disadvantage I didn't know about until that evening when I went to clear the weapon and check it. For some reason, I decided that I wanted to go ahead and relieve the spring and, take all the rounds out of the magazine, do all that, and then went to clear the chamber. Empty cartridge. No bueno. I had held the slide hard enough to where it didn't cycle, and the gun failed to feed. And so I basically, in two things, basically, I screwed the pooch on that one. So anyway, that was just a thought I wanted to tell you. Let's see what we got here. Got that one. Okay, I have actually measured it, and from my calculations, it takes 1 second too long to rack the slide. 2 seconds versus 3. 3 is the killer right there. That's a big deal. Now, going into that, yes, this is 2 pages. Woohoo! Video number 7, by the way. Thanks, guys. Okay. Don't put yourself at a risk of a malfunction. Stovepipe, not in battery, short stroking it, which happens all the time. You can watch it all over the internet. That's a big deal. Not cool. There's too many things that can go wrong during that process, and you need to eliminate that process from what you're doing. That's one part of the operation your training has to deal with, and it takes too many seconds to do that. It's crazy. Oh, this is a cute one. This is a cute one. About 2 years ago, no, actually 3 years ago, I bought my Witness at a local pawn shop. And my buddy and I decided we were going to go ahead and do some target shooting. I lived in a rural area. I couldn't, discharge a weapon or anything, so I was out there in the country with him. And I handed it to him, and I said, "You take the first shot. You know, it's my pistol," and I really was excited to shoot the darn thing, but I decided to hand it over to him and said, "You take the first shot." And he looked at me and he handed it over. And I don't know if he was listening or not, but I said, "It is loaded. Just pull the trigger." And his training showed its course. He went ahead and racked the slide, threw a round on the ground. I'm like, oh God, here we go. And he used the slide lock to drop it, or I don't know what he did exactly, but it wasn't right because the gun went out of battery. It wouldn't fire. And he's sitting there and he's like, I can't fire it. So I start hammering down on my pistol, and I locked her in there, and then it discharged, and they handed it to me, and it was in semi-automatic at that point. So I'm like, boom, 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 just moving around, the stump's just jumping and bark everywhere. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, like I say, dealing with racking the slide is a big deal. It's important to understand that you need to keep it loaded. If it's a sidearm, you've got to keep it loaded. It's got to be ready, and it's got to be hot. You might lose an arm, not lose an arm, but actually be pinned in a vehicle or turned over your side. I was talking to a friend of mine, Chris, today. I call him my brother, Chris. And things happen. Shit happens. You need to make sure it's in battery. I mean, it's one thing I do with pistols is I test them a little bit. I go a little farther because there's a technique if somebody's actually got a pistol pointed at you, where you can actually reach up, grab it, and pull the slide back and take it out of battery. So I did the pillow test, which is kind of fun. You take a pillow and you take your sidearm and you push it into it, and you see how far out of battery you can go until she won't fire. And apparently the CZ design works really well because it'll be almost an eighth of an inch out of battery and it still strikes. Hold on, here we go again. Okay, a little longer video. That's a good thing, right? Okay. Just remember that a revolver has 6 in the pipe. Think on that one. Comment on that one. Run it hot or run it not. I say it to myself. Run it hot or run it not. Leave it home if you're not going to go ahead and run it hot. You guys have a great evening. Subscribe. Big stuff on that one. I want comments. We're going to do a lot of things here. We're actually going to open up different emails. We're going to do Twitter and all that stuff. I'm still learning about it, but I'm going to be able to answer the stuff you have questions about. I'll do the research on your questions, and then I'll do a video about it. You guys click the bell if you want. That's okay. You guys have a great evening.